Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Your super chat support is greatly appreciated. I will keep you up to date with the two congressional contests in Florida and also the Wisconsin Supreme Court results. The Republican Party is going to gain, so President Trump is actually going to gain 2 seats of 2 Republicans within his administration currently, with 2 Republican candidates who are on their way to winning. Hit subscribe. Elon Musk Doge to go after strangely wealthy Democrats. A look at his potential target's net worth. This is very interesting. Hit subscribe right now. Randy Fine is on his way to becoming a congressman in Florida's 6th Special House General Election. So Florida U.S. House 6th District, Randy Fine is well on his way, 64% reporting. He is doing extremely well. That's an extra Republican vote in the House. And you have Jimmy Petronis, who's looking to do the same thing. Keep watching this channel. We'll do updates every 5-10 minutes. But let's listen to Elon Musk right now, ladies and gentlemen. He's going after a lot of very wealthy Democrats and even Republicans, too, I can imagine. Probably never Trumpers first. They got their money through potentially graft, bribery, I would say in many cases, let's say insider trading, possible insider trading. So they could possibly indict, or maybe they're looking to indict Nancy Pelosi and others. Let's check this out.
Is peaceful discourse.
My question is about USAID. Has the Doge team found any evidence that any of the radical left Democrats like Maxine Waters, Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer have received money directly from USAID? And if so, will we be hearing about that evidence anytime soon?
Yeah. So there is a massive amount of corruption, but it is circuitous. So what happens is there's money that, obviously it's your taxpayer money, that is then sent to various government organizations who then send it to NGOs, which an NGO is a non-governmental organization, but obviously if it's a government-funded non-governmental organization, it's just an organization, it's just a government. And effectively, there's a giant fraud loophole, which is that the government can send money to an NGO that is then no longer governed by the laws of the United States. So they'll send the money overseas to one NGO, then they'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned.
So it's a very creative way. It's called, it used to be called honest graft back in the late 1800s. Democrats, okay, so a spending bill is passed, USAID, which is now almost completely scrapped by Doge and Musk and Trump. Thank goodness, because unfortunately, although it did good things, it was bundled alongside an honest or legal form of graft and potential laundering. If USAID gave money to humanitarian causes, food, medicine, the Democrats tomorrow could pass a bill to ensure that humanitarian assistance continues to flow to people around the world. They won't do that. They would rather have their money bundled up alongside potential and possible graft and fraudulent expenditures. So what they'll do is, instead of actually passing a bill, a specific bill in Congress that says, hey, your taxpayer money is going to good things, humanitarian causes, helping people, saving lives. They're not going to do that for some reason. We don't know exactly why, but we kind of know exactly why. They won't campaign on their alleged value system. They won't push legislation in Congress to specifically help all the programs they think that Musk and Doge took an axe to. What happened is USAID got a billions of dollars, huge budget, and money was funneled to very bizarre projects like $20 million for Sesame Street in the Middle East, or $100 million plus for contraceptives. A lot of the money goes to non-governmental organizations that Elon Musk just explained right here does the following.
Government-funded non-governmental organization is just an organization. It's just a government. And effectively, there's a giant fraud loophole, which is that the government can send money to an NGO that is then no longer governed by the laws of the United States. So they'll send the money overseas to one NGO, then they'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned. But it is a circuitous route. It's not like it doesn't go directly, but let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress.
Strangely wealthy members of Congress. Gee, why are they so wealthy? $40 billion, by the way, was the annual budget for USAID. Okay, a lot of that money, unfortunately, found its way to non-governmental organizations, which eventually found its way to the campaigns of Democrats, according to Elon Musk and others.
Where I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich while earning, how they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year? It sounds, nobody can explain that. So something's, yeah, we're going to try to figure it out, and
that's how they used to find in intelligence agencies people who were giving committing treason, giving classified information to the KGB or to the Soviets. They actually looked at the parking lot and said, wait a second, how on earth is this person driving a Jaguar or a Mercedes? And Aldrich Ames, one of the people, Aldrich Ames, worked for Central Intelligence. This is in the 80s. One way they eventually found that he was a turncoat was that they looked at the cars being parked outside these government agencies, and they said, well, how is this guy affording a Jaguar and a government salary working for Central Intelligence? Anyway, let's continue.
Sounds, nobody can explain that. So something's, yeah, we're going to try to figure it out, and certainly stop it from happening.
May have just found their next target. Elon Musk says he's now focusing on members of Congress who became, quote, strangely wealthy while in Congress.
They'll send the money overseas to one NGO, then they'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned. It doesn't go directly, but let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress. I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich while earning, how did they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year?
Great point. Our next guest's app tracks which stocks politicians are investing in. Co-founder of the Autopilot app, Chris Joseph, joins us right now. Hi, Chris.
Hey, thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. You know, when we put up the members of Congress's salary, it's a couple $100,000 a year for the most part, about. And yet we hear about some people who came in, didn't have any money, and then by the time they've been in the House or the Senate for 20, 30 years, they were super rich. You've been tracking that. What have you found?
Yeah, you see one, you kind of think it's a coincidence. You see two, it's like, okay, things are getting weird. And you see three or four, it's like, all right, well, now what is actually going on? And it's great to see that Elon and the Doge team are actually finally starting to look into this. We track specifically the trades and kind of the public filings of their disclosures around their financial statements. And there really isn't too much that you could see on the actual stock trading side. However, there's not much that you can really see into the spouses and the dependents of those politicians. So,
Paul Bartlett, thank you so very much. Yes, I saw that. Scott, thank you. Paul, thank you so much to my super chat. Thank you. So that's the issue here. You can't see the stock trades of a significant other. And so Pelosi, her response has always been, well, it's a significant other that is making all this money. By the way, they purchased Tesla not long ago, which was just it's so interesting how Democrats work. But let's continue.
So if I were Elon, and I would kind of recommend where to look for the for some suspicious stuff going on here, I would go right to the spouses, and especially especially the spouses and the children as well.
Right. And, for instance, Nancy Pelosi, when she came into office, she had a fraction of the amount of money she's got now, but her husband, venture capitalist, invested in a lot of different stocks and made just a jackpot of money. And that's one of the reasons why so many people in Congress had said, we got to stop with the stock trading. But famously, Nancy Pelosi had said, no, you know what? We're going to keep doing it.
Yep. Rules for me and not for thee. The funny story about how all that even started, too, is before the Stock Act even happened, these politicians were allowed to do literally whatever they wanted. And part of the reason why she became kind of the poster child of this entire thing was she was able to get exclusive access to the Visa IPO at the time, back in, I believe it was 2009, 2008. And it was through her husband. Her husband was able to put in a certain amount of money before those shares became public for the general public to buy. And that was the largest IPO in history at the time. And she made a killing on it while the other American people were not able to do it. How did her husband get that access? Might be because of her.
Yeah, but Chris, we're not suggesting anything is illegal because they can buy and trade stuff. It's just not very transparent.
But but insider trading, the act of insider trading, and we're not accusing, nobody on this screen is accusing Nancy Pelosi or her husband of insider trading. However, the act is part of it. It's kind of like you can buy and sell, but if you are buying and selling is legal. But if you're buying and selling because you're given information that the American public doesn't have, that's against the law. You're given information that stock holders and investors and shareholders don't have. That's against the law. This isn't rocket science. So, I mean, the stock trade, you just look at, it's like you look at the performance and you look at when the stocks were purchased. And then you look at the access Pelosi might have had to gaining that information. It's not rocket science how you would indict or convict somebody.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what the majority of the Americans want.
Right.
Just transparency into it, bring some more kind of touch points on it. Yeah, we have been tracking her and a lot of other politicians for a while. No one has ever been found in charge for insider trading. There has been allegations. We've seen some suspicious stuff, but you are right. This is all kind of just wanting more transparency and more input into what truly is going on.
You know what? You've talked me into it. I'm going to download your app. It's called Autopilot. It's on his hat. I want to see what you guys have uncovered. Chris Josephs, we thank you very much for joining us live today.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
So Martha Stewart apparently lied about the insider trading. It actually wasn't the insider trading, or it wasn't the stock trade, from what I remember years back. So from what I remember years back, it wasn't exactly the stock trade. It was lying about it to it might have been the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I'm not exactly sure, or prosecutors. This is potentially what could get Democrats, many of whom possibly engaged in insider trading, indicted.
Nancy Pelosi back in the spotlight because of her stock trade.
Ben A., thank you again. Thank you for the kind words. And I appreciate all the support, everybody. Your super chat is greatly appreciated. We're going to get actually two more Trump Republicans in the House. Thank God. Thank God. That's a good thing for a number of reasons, ladies and gentlemen. You look at what's taking place really quickly. The Democrats have championed a person who took the life of a CEO in a health insurance company that maybe he was doing things that were unethical. I thought the Affordable Care Act was, the greatest piece of legislation of all time. I thought that Democrats viewed that to be the signature achievement of President Obama's administration. Furthermore, instead of championing a man who took the life of the CEO was an innocent human being. AOC, if the CEO wasn't breaking any laws and the laws current laws allow for that company to do what it was doing, but even if he was breaking, the capital punishment wasn't. These are the people, by the way, who are against the death penalty. Democrats, the morally superior, who are championing somebody who took the life of a healthcare CEO, who, by the way, AOC, if you look at Open Secrets, is funded by one of the largest health insurance companies. Okay, so it's the rampant hypocrisy is unbelievable. But you look at what is Doge and Musk doing to elicit such vitriol. Oh, they're ensuring we don't go into bankruptcy. You have Mark Cuban, who is criticizing Elon Musk. God forbid, if somebody, if a Republican went after businesses associated with that individual, trying to ruin or trying to create this hysterical public relations. These public relations events that get conservatives all, around the country to lose their minds, which, by the way, conservatives and Republicans don't do that. But if the reverse were true, I don't think he would be so critical of Elon Musk. I think he would say, my God, this is a concerted effort by one political party to try to harm my businesses simply because they don't like my political viewpoint, which is not only against the law, it's antithetical to the American, to what it means to be an American, the American political system, our rights, our freedoms. You should be able to want to vote. You should be able to vote and choose anyone you want politically without repercussions. But Democrats, they're all about empathy, except if you disagree with them, then they want to key your car, and you have loyalists going after Tesla dealerships, arson, committing acts that could lead to a tremendous loss of life. And all because Musk is trying to ensure that we don't go bankrupt as a country. What could be more empathetic? What could be a greater example of empathy? Yeah, unfortunately, people are going to lose their jobs because Democrats created such a gigantic bureaucratic state that to ensure we don't have $1.8 trillion budget deficit, unfortunately, people are going to have to, government workers, unfortunately, a number are going to lose their jobs. Unfortunately, you have USAID that does provide good humanitarian assistance. That program was bundled with a possible graft and bribery scheme. So like Democrats, what they do is they combine all of their political objectives alongside good things or people's jobs. And then they say, oh my God, look what Musk is doing. It's like, no, you shouldn't have done that. That hurts not only the deficit and the economy and the national debt, but it makes us, it could lead to us being on the brink of bankruptcy. And so Musk and Doge and Trump come and they fix things. And then suddenly it's, oh my God, don't buy a Tesla. But Tesla's going to go back up. But it's just, the hypocrisy is unbelievable. Anyway, let's continue.
The lawmaker disclosed her husband, Paul Pelosi, purchased options to buy up between $750,000 and $1.5 million worth of Apple stock and up to $600,000 in Microsoft stock last month. The news coming just months after the speaker signaled that she may be willing to advance a bill to ban individual stock trading by lawmakers. She had previously shot down the idea, claiming it's unfair to exclude lawmakers from playing the market, but that was really disingenuous, Dagan, because nobody is telling her to not have access to the stock market. Like most of us who may have access to inside information, there are indexes to buy or exchange-traded funds or mutual funds rather than buying individual stocks. So she's disingenuous when she comes out with this idea that it's unfair that lawmakers shouldn't invest in the stock market. Your reaction?
I don't think she even cares about the appearance of impropriety anymore. I've said this before, but this woman is so out of touch. She thinks the Golden Corral is a chain of jewelry stores in Texas. These aren't even stocks. These are options trades. And to your point, Maria, I have.
So with the options trades, she's looking that's even more incriminating. Because you buy a call or a put, you buy a call, you think the stock's going to go up. A put, you think the stock's going to go down. And it's like if you're buying options, you're betting on the direction of the stock. You know, you're not saying, well, I like this company and I'll sell it in a year or 2 years or whatever. So that's even more incriminating.
Never, ever since I started working as a financial journalist almost 30 years ago, I've never owned individual stocks. I've always owned mutual funds or exchange traded funds. Never, ever owning an individual stock. But we know that she's rich. Look no further than the car that her husband was driving after that accident and DUI that he got. It was a Porsche, as we say down south.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Lee, this is the woman who is overseeing legislation, writing legislation for tech companies and everybody else, Lee. I mean, we just recently learned Microsoft was going to be getting a big contract from the Department of Defense. How does she buy the stock before we know what's going on in terms of government business with these companies? This certainly doesn't.
Because... And to be legally responsible, potentially, possibly, like the Honorable James Comey always said, he was wonderful, potentially. Will you, Director Comey, will you testify against your former colleague and best friend, Andrew McCabe, the former deputy director? Potentially. I don't want to, but potentially and possibly. So, potentially and possibly. Possibly, potentially, Pelosi learned, potentially, of all the information about what the company was doing in terms of its stock price, or what was about to happen, which would influence the stock price to go up. Potentially, possibly, in terms of insider trading, potentially, possibly.
Doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good at all, and it's not fair. But the bottom line, too, that I find so ironic about all of this is she is, one of the leaders of the party that's supposed to be fighting against.
Are you a consultant, coach?
Nancy Pelosi back in the spotlight because of her stock trades.
So it was a whole bunch of stock trades. It wasn't just one in particular. Hold on one second.
Stock before we know what's going on in terms of government business with these companies. This certainly doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good at all, and it's not fair. But the bottom line, too, that I find so ironic about all of this is she is, one of the leaders of the party that's supposed to be fighting against big companies. She's supposed to be fighting for the little guy. She's operating the whole elite stratosphere on all kinds of information that other people don't have. And it's just simply the hypocrisy of it is.
It's not just Democrats, Republicans also. Okay, former never Trumpers, but it's just unbelievable. It's so easy too. Like if any normal person that wasn't in politics did all of this, there'd be no way they wouldn't be in prison, really.
Welcome back, everybody. Time for the hot topic buzz. Nancy Pelosi denying accusations of insider trading after financial disclosures showed that her husband bought as much as $5 million in computer chip stock, NVIDIA, ahead of this week's vote on a bill that would deliver billions of dollars in subsidies to the chip manufacturing industry.
It was a coincidence. It was just a coincidence.
Look who's back, Congresswoman Kat Cammack from House Homeland Security. Congresswoman, it's great to have you on. Okay, this D.C. controversy.
I keep on clicking on things I shouldn't click on, but this is actually a great interview right here.
It's good to see you. Lucrative stock trading by Nancy Pelosi's husband, while she's Speaker of the House and has been in Congress. Her team's answer, her office is saying Nancy Pelosi does not own any stock.
Yeah, I love the Democrats so much. See, you have to just enjoy the way the Democrats work. It's so amusing. The Speaker does not own any stocks. Well, this is true, obviously true, but maybe her significant other who possibly gets information he shouldn't get does. As you can see from the required disclosure, cooperates. These transactions are marked SP for spouse. Moted. You have nothing. You have nothing, incredulous, American who obviously is asking very simple questions. Don't believe your lying eyes. SP.
Here's the problem. The Pelosis live in California. California is a community property state, so she does own them.
Yeah, no, this is what's crazy. I would love for a member of the media to ask her about their arrangement, whether they have a prenup or if they were to divorce, what would happen with all of those assets that she claims aren't hers. This is ridiculous. And a little known fact that I think Americans should know is that when members trade stocks, they have up to 30 days to report it. 30 days. And even then, they don't have to give the exact amount of what they purchased or sold. It's just a range. So this is just one more example of this double set of standards that Congress lives by that Americans don't have to live by. And it's ridiculous. It's totally unfair, and it needs to change. This is absolutely the swamp at work at its best.
Congresswoman, the other problem, too, is Paul Pelosi. He buys stock options in companies like big tech companies, right? Again, making millions of dollars while Pelosi's overseeing potential legislation that could hit companies like big tech. To be able to trade stock options profitably, you have to know or figure out which direction that stock could go, and then you make a big profit. So this feels like, there's talk that they've got an insider information edge.
Absolutely. When you think about this, there you have that 30-day lag of when things are going to be reported, if they're reported.
Oh my God. Bought Tesla stock. Oh, look at that. Oopsie. Okay. Bought Tesla, Microsoft. Oh my God. It's all coincidence.
At all. And if they aren't reported, get this, it's only a $200 fine. So there's millions of dollars of stocks that have been traded, that have been bought. And you think that the $200 fine is going to bother the Pelosis? I think not. They clearly have no regard for the law, as discovered by the drunk driving incident by Mr.
So $5 million in NVIDIA ahead of a favorable legislation for the company or for the industry. Apple's Tim Cook personally called Pelosi. Okay, it's just, that alone could be viewed as insider trading. But let's continue.
Pelosi. But also think about this. You have all of these stocks that are being bought and sold all the time, legislation that is typically in draft form, and the Speaker is in control of what bills come to the House floor and when. Tell me that that is not the most incestuous relationship of all. We know that he's getting inside information because there's no way that he would have known that in July, the CHIPS Act, or USICA, was going to be coming to the House floor for a vote after the Senate has been considering their version. There's just no way he would have known that because we had seen months ago action on this bill and then it died out. So clearly there was some insider baseball going on, some insider information. And it's
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to read you. Republican Randy Fine wins Florida special election for Waltz's seat. It is official. So this actually, because you have Republicans now in President Trump's administration, like National Security Advisor Michael Waltz. So that's an extra Trump Republican, thank God, to save the country from the Democrats giving tacit approval to keying cars, going after dealerships, all of that nonsense. Worse than nonsense, but that is huge. So really quickly, Randy Fine. He wins House 6 in Florida. Let's look at Jimmy Patronis here. Okay, that those results haven't come, but he has won, ladies and gentlemen. This is huge. This is huge. That's an extra Trump Republican and a Trump Republican, not a never Trumper, to prevent never-ending military conflict, to save the country from bankruptcy, to ensure that laws are enforced. Okay, President Trump. He came into office in large part, and that's how you go from Bernie Sanders in 2016, I wrote about this in the Federalist, to President Trump in 2025 or even 2020. You want an end to never-ending military conflict. That Trump is the anti-war choice. If you don't care about foreign policy, that's a different story. You can vote Democrat. But if you care about foreign policy, you don't just obsess over one region of the world, one country, but you care about foreign policy in general, Trump is the anti-war choice. And he always was. That's why Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney voted for Warren. I mean, they would vote for Warren for Harris. But let's continue.
Wrong. We absolutely should be investigating this, and she should be held accountable for sharing this information with her husband.
So, and the Congresswoman, okay, to your point, buying millions of dollars worth of stock in big tech companies with headquarters in Pelosi's own district. That chip maker NVIDIA is in Pelosi's home district. Again, $52 billion in taxpayer funding of chip makers to take on China. That's coming down the pipeline. Apple, Google, all have their headquarters right in Pelosi's district. That's who Paul Pelosi's invested in. I mean, critics are saying this raises questions that Nancy Pelosi leads a life of privilege. She and her husband think they're untouchable, and that, you know, the idea that her job has nothing to do with his financial doings and dealings, it just doesn't pass the smell test. I mean, this is making money off of your perch in Congress. It feels like arrogant elitism, the swamp on steroids.
Absolutely. I mean, this is absolutely why Americans across this country do not trust members of Congress. It's because they live by a separate set of standards. There's inside information that members of Congress are privy to because they work and craft this legislation. They engage with these companies on a regular basis. They talk to the associations. Not only that, but they control the floor schedule. In this case, Speaker Pelosi is the one who decides when this bill comes to the floor and has regular conversations with the other chamber in the Senate to determine when this will go to conference. So again, a double set of standards. We saw this under Hillary Clinton. We've seen it under the Pelosi's. There's a double set of standards that exist for the politically connected and the limousine liberals and the elites. It has to change.
What's happening with Tesla, by the way, and you saw Democrats, they're still investing, thank goodness, in Tesla. Tesla's a great company. I don't own an electric vehicle. If I did, it would be a Tesla. That's not because I think Elon Musk is helping save the country from bankruptcy. That's because it's a very good company. It's the best electric vehicle on the market. Okay, this is not just my opinion. Most people think that, or a great many people acknowledge that. The whole point, though, is that what's taking place is linked to this time. We'll get back to the insider trading and the potential for indictments. But there is a concerted effort by Democrats to harm the company for political reasons. That's un-American, and it needs to stop. And it's putting people's lives at risk.
With his Doge crusade to cut government waste, as he becomes public enemy number one for the Democrats, who are hell-bent on destroying his companies and making him the boogeyman of tonight's special elections. One of those races, Musk says, could affect the destiny of humanity. The billionaire has been
for your show, and it's very funny. Actually, it's my
show. And continue to ask some questions. So I'll start with you, Greg Gutfeld.
All right, Elon, great to see you, as always. I have two questions.
Yeah.
I have two questions. One, I've noticed in the past you seem incapable of being risk averse. If you see something you want to try, you try it. And so I'm wondering, what kind of advice would you give to a young person whose fear of failure keeps them from taking risks that would actually enrich their lives, whether it's career or personal life? And my next question is, when the hell are you doing my show? I've left voicemail messages. I've sent carrier pigeons. I get no response.
I love Gutfeld also, by the way. I love the five. I do.
Well, I'll be happy to do your show. I've seen pieces of your show, and it's very funny. Actually, it's my style of humor, so I look forward to doing your show.
Awesome.
With respect to what to tell young people, I think it's always good when thinking about something that you're afraid of. When thinking about fear, look fear straight in the eye, and it will disappear.
Okay. All right.
The nature of fear is that people don't look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it directly, and it will be gone.
All right. Thank you. Good advice. All right, Jesse.
Jessica, look at me. Look at me. Face your fears, Jessica. Elon, how are you? I'm Jesse Waters. Good to see you. I'm not going to beg for you to come on my show. I know it'll happen eventually. You said the other day you uncovered some evidence that there was massive Social Security fraud and that arrests were imminent.
Yes.
What can you tell us about that? And what can you tell us about what you've seen politicians do to make massive amounts of money off of the federal government, like Nancy Pelosi? Please.
Yes. So we've encountered. There's really so much for it. It's deciding what should be prosecuted first, because it's such a long list. You have to actually prioritize the list. We convey the list to the Department of Justice. The DOJ has a process that they go through to review and think about it. The wheels of justice turn slowly. In fact, obviously, I have a maniacal sense of urgency. So to me, when I see that terrible fraud has happened, I'm like, why haven't we arrested someone already? But as the saying goes, the wheels of justice turn slowly but surely. And I think probably the person that stole 400,000 Social Security numbers, at least, maybe more, will be arrested hopefully this week. With respect to the non-governmental organizations, these sort of fake NGOs, I think there needs to be a number of arrests in that regard as well, because these are fake charities where mostly Democrats, I don't want to be clear. There's sometimes a little bit of Republican in there, because they sometimes throw the Republicans a bone to say, "Hey, be quiet about this." So that's where you start getting the uniparty thing going on. But it is overwhelmingly to Democrats, and they give give billions of dollars to NGOs run by Democrats that then go through a whole network of additional NGOs. It's a giant money laundering scheme. Really, at this point, I think the word NGO and money laundering are almost synonymous.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow. Non-governmental organizations and money laundering, synonymous. And this is the thing also. The average Democratic voter, even if they were to learn, hey, these non-governmental organizations are giving to Democrats, they would then say, oh, good. What's the problem? They wouldn't care. They would say, that's just politics. That's just politics. Oh, you can't stop politics. And it's like, oh, that is taxpayer money. If it went to the Republican Party, you'd never hear the end of it. And so that's in the late 1800s, they called it honest graft in Tammany Hall. This is, again, another un-American thing. Taxpayer money should not be going to the campaigns of Democrats, and shouldn't be funneled through government agencies to non-governmental organizations, and then find its way to the pockets of Democrats.
Makes sense to me. Kennedy?
Hello, Judge. And hello, Elon. Welcome to the Five. Great to talk to you. So let's talk a little bit about some of the anti-Tesla violence. Your car company
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, it was a leftist dream come true. It was technologically advanced. It was the word of mouth was better than any car company, arguably, on the market. And now the left is trying to make it a pariah by tying their anti-Elon politics to violence. How do you talk the unhinged off the ledge? And how do you counter that violence that you're seeing at Tesla dealerships?
Yes, it is remarkable that there is so much violence. People have burnt cars, they've fired bullets into dealerships. They've scratched swastikas into Teslas of the innocent people that they're just going about their lives. They've done nothing wrong. And Tesla's done nothing wrong as a company. And so I find it ironic and incredibly hypocritical that the same Democrat politicians who would want to throw someone in prison for 20 years simply for watching things at January 6th, but not actually doing any violence, you don't hear a single word from them about.
The hypocrisy is unbelievable. What Democrats and organizations and individuals and groups linked to the Democratic Party, what they got away with in terms of rampant violence, rampant political violence and chaos, and what the performance art that they did when it came to that one day in January, terrible day. That happened all throughout Trump's last year in office, after the Dobbs decision, and now with Tesla. And not one moment of condemnation. And they're championing somebody who took the life of an insurance CEO. An insurance company, one of the largest in the world, backs AOC. Go to Open Secrets. You can see that.
The actual violence happening against Tesla, what incredible hypocrites they are. It's outrageous. I mean, this is fundamentally a case of terrorism. It's wide-scale domestic terrorism with the purpose of intimidation, and it's harming innocent people. It's really terrible. And I think what we actually have to get to are the people who are organizing and paying for these attacks and protests. That's who we really need to go after. Because the people who are actually throwing the Molotov cocktails, they are the foot soldiers. Right. But we need to go after the generals, and we're going to do so.
See this?
We're going to go after those that are paying and organizing these violent attacks. And Attorney General Bondi has said the same thing. I believe that is exactly what will happen.
Do you know who they are?
We're coming for them.
Do you know who those generals are?
We know. We do.
Yes. And hopefully the prosecution will be for RICO and an organized criminal enterprise, which makes the penalties even more serious. And now to Jessica.
Yes, absolutely. These are serious crimes where the organizers and pushers of mass violence will go to prison for a very long time.
That's right. Okay.
And I hope they see this segment.
Well, we'll play it again. Jessica.
Okay. Well, liberal Tesla lover here. My sister has two in her family, so have not thrown any Molotov cocktails recently. But I wanted to talk to you about what Doge has been doing. So you've been making cuts to a lot of the agencies that have open investigations and regulatory battles with your companies. At the same time, you continue to get billions in government contracts. Tesla gets billions in subsidies. How do you explain that to the American people?
All of the electric car companies get subsidies, not just Tesla.
Well, everything that Doge does is an open book. So I think the most transparent the most transparent organization in government ever. Every single Doge action is listed on the Doge.gov website. It's also listed on the X handle. So if anyone has a concern about any one of those actions, they can bring that up. They can raise that. And I do want to say, like, sometimes we make a mistake. Nobody bats 1,000. We will at times make a mistake, and make a mistake. We'll act very quickly to correct it. I am under such an extreme spotlight, so much scrutiny, that it's literally impossible for me to get away with anything nefarious. And obviously, nor do I wish to. So this is a case where we have radical transparency. We're actually willing to admit that we do make mistakes. Often people are not willing to admit they make mistakes, but we are. But we want to emphasize we fix them quickly, and we're trying to do the right thing for the American taxpayer, for the American people. And I think history will be the judge that what we've done here and what we're doing is a very good thing for the strength and future of America.
Okay. So, Elon, for one last time, why don't you remind the viewers why the election in Wisconsin is so important to.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the reasons also that Democrats are now turning on Tesla, a car company that is great for the environment. Why would Democrats turn on something they claim to care so much about, the environment? This is why.
And when you see the crazy things that the government is spending money on, you can see a list of some of them. So like, I don't know if we should be spending money on transgender comic books in Peru. That doesn't seem like an ideal thing to spend your money on, Why would we do that? If somebody in Peru wants to do that of their own accord, that's fine, but it shouldn't be your money that does it. So it's just, and we shouldn't be paying rent on empty buildings. If I do think there is a role for government, but we just need to make sure we're just going through and saying and doing what I would call like an excellent and necessary and reasonably trusted review of organizations and personnel. So is this person doing a good job? Great. Is the role necessary? If so, that's good. And are they reasonably trusted? Meaning they're not a psycho. Like, we're not talking about like political affiliation, just that they're not crazy. What's wrong with that? I'm like, sounds super normal to me. So that's it. In this process.
And again, if Democrats want a comic book, if they want a play or Sesame Street or whatever, if they want to indoctrinate other countries with ideologies that emanate from universities in the United States or the far left within the United States, then pass a bill in Congress. If Democrats have a chance not to legislate, not to run on their actual value system, which they're embarrassed of it. That's why they go through surreptitious means. They go through USAID. They go through, it's a massive. They say, well, Congress appropriated the money. No, it didn't. No, it didn't to contraceptives in the Middle East. No. That went to USAID, and then the money was funneled to non-governmental organizations and all of these bizarre, absurd expenditures. But they can go very simply. And this is why you watch the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe if you're new. Tell your friends about this channel. Democrats in Congress tomorrow can push legislation, write a bill that funds any program they think USAID, any program that was in USAID that was scrapped. They could fund legislation to send money overseas, anywhere around the world for humanitarian needs. Or they can also, for these, left-leaning or, certain ideologies that they want to promote throughout the world, why don't they just in Congress try to pass legislation? Because they don't want the entire country to know that's what they deem appropriate.
One of the things that we've discovered, which is, I think, on the fraud side, which is a really big deal, is that the Democrat administration, the Biden administration, has basically taken every arm of the U.S. government and bent it towards creating a financial incentive for illegal immigrants to come to the United States. Now, this is every part of the government. So, like Social Security, Medicaid, unemployment insurance, disability, even the IRS. So you can fill out a fake tax return and say you need a tax. Maybe I shouldn't tell people this, but it'll actually work. I mean, mostly. There's some chance you'll get caught, but if you fill out a fake tax return, you can just get a tax refund, even though if you didn't pay taxes. So we're trying to stop all these things. Say okay, well, let's stop the waste and fraud, and we also need to turn off the massive financial incentive for illegals to come to the United States and stay in the United States. And this is really the thing that is causing the Democrats to lose their mind. Because they're actually spending, at this point, tens of billions to attract and retain illegals in the United States. It's really on that scale. It's a gigantic number. And the goal is to turn all the swing states blue. That means Wisconsin. So that's the goal. So with the asylum program, if they can get a green card within a year, and then they can get citizenship as quickly as 4 years after getting a green card, because the first year of being asylum counts for the 5-year citizenship waiting period. So this is a very big deal. A number of friends of mine have actually joined the government and in order to help with this process. And I'd like to welcome my friend Antonio Gracias to the stage. I think so.
By the way, Jimmy Petronis is on his way to winning. This is huge. And whatever happens with the Wisconsin Supreme Court contest, this is two more. These are two more Trump Republicans. Two more Trump Republicans who are going to just add more more security within the House of Representatives to ensure President Trump can continue doing, what he was elected to do. So this is very, very good. So this is another huge, huge victory. Okay, we had 4 years of Biden. Even the Democrats were embarrassed. They then removed him for Harris, who lost the popular vote, every battleground state, the House, the Senate, the presidency. Okay, now Democrats have said, Trump Republicans are turning on. No, they're not. These are two examples of, you could say, well, they're red districts. Yeah, well, okay. And you have two congressmen who just won. So the vast majority, almost all Trump supporters are very happy. Look, I know people who are being, the tariffs are tough on a lot of people with businesses. I understand that. The people who voted for Trump understand that. What Democrats do is they'll find one person fired from a government agency who's upset. Well, of course. What do you expect? Where was CNN and all these other media cable stations asking people about the policies that Biden enacted that harmed them? That's why you had President Trump winning the popular vote. You had Democrats, you had people who would ordinarily vote Democrat, vote for Trump. They didn't want inflation. They didn't want never-ending military conflict. They didn't want immigration laws not to be enforced. Okay? You can look at a lot of people who suffered. I don't want to go into it, but let's continue.
Does it work? I can give you mine. Does it work? It'll be okay. Buzz Aldrin's still alive, and he went past the bells.
Work. Is this working? Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, okay, there you go. So, Antonio, can you tell us what you... Antonio is helping out with the Social Security. So just trying to review Social Security, where you may have heard that we found 20 million dead people marked as alive in the Social Security database. This is so crazy. And then you'll notice there's a strange trend here where how many Social Security numbers were issued. Do you want to?
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened here. We started at the top of the system.
I want to talk about a lot of it.
We started at the top of the system, mapping the whole system of Social Security to understand where all the fraud was. And there's a lot of great people there that showed us really a lot of waste. And so that came up with a big list of stuff they're working on. You've heard some of that already. But this is what jumped out at us. When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000 people, goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, this literally blew us away. Like, we went there to find fraud, and we found this by accident. And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. This country's been great to us. My brother and sister all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America. And there are a lot of good people in the system that pointed us in this direction. I want to honor them right now, that work in the government today, who took risks to show us these numbers and tell us what's going on. Yeah. So I want to stop for a minute. I want to honor those people today. Very good people. Very good people. I have been from D.C. to Social Security offices to the border to track this down, and very good people have helped us along the way. I want to thank them.
Yeah.
This number, what this is when you come in the country, if you're an illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid, and they'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview, then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. And then you go walk across the border. They do what's called a release your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, notice to appear, which to appear to judge. The wait times on judges are like average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges. There's only 700 of them. This is 5.5 million people. Okay? So what happens then? Once you're in the country and you got asylum through one of these pathways, and we've mapped the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document. You file a 765. It's the work form. You get this form called the 766. That's the authorization. And then Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number. No interview. No ID.
This is worth just reiterating. It's not people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep. They weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it, and Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system from Social Security to all of the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through on every benefit program we went through. We found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million.
This is why Democrats don't legislate. They pass spending bills, but they don't pass bills that say, okay, you can be a non-citizen and get Medicaid or Social Security. We, the Democratic Party, want non-citizens to get Social Security. They won't do that because they know the country will not accept that. Even Democrats won't accept that. So what they do, ignorance is bliss. They just simply don't enforce immigration laws. They allow for this type of fraudulent expenditure to take place. And that's it. And it's plausible. The life of a Democratic politician and never Trumpers, plausible deniability. Never Trump Republicans, Democrats, you can say Republicans and Democrats, but mainly Democrats, plausible deniability. Well, we don't know. Oh, people are going after Tesla. Oops, that's bad. Oh, that's too bad. Well, we're not telling anyone to do anything. Wink, wink. I mean, you saw Jimmy Kimmel give tacit approval. All these politicians, they're giving tacit approval to really terrible things like arson. You know, property damage, arson. I mean, that could lead to a tremendous loss of life, God forbid. You don't see Democrats in Congress saying, oh, okay, we're going to pass legislation to give undocumented immigrants Social Security or Medicaid. They're not going to do that. They're just going to say, oh, well, you know what? We didn't know. Gosh, everything's so, terrible. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe. Thank you so very much. Randy Fine won. Jimmy Petronas, I believe, already won. Yeah, so you have 2 extra Republicans, thank God. Trump Republicans, thank God, who are anti-war and who will protect the country from a very vicious, indignant, angry Democratic Party that really stands for nothing. Anyway, hit subscribe. I'll be back I should be back with an upload in a couple of hours. Thanks, everybody.